What's up everybody, True Evil here, back with another Neverness to Everness video, and today I want to talk about Lacrimosa, but more specifically, I want to explain why I believe Adler is her best support unit in the entire game. And the first part of the video will be explaining my reasoning, and the second half will be a silent showcase, because you might not believe me that Adler is better, but when I was going through the entirety of the new portion of Beyond the Rails, it was really evident how crucial Adler is on the Lacrimosa team because it just doesn't feel great in the hyper endgame using her without Adler, and I'm going to explain why now. When I first started using Lacrimosa to clear Beyond the Rails and the high risk anomaly commissions, she felt absolutely amazing, and I literally didn't even think she had a weakness because she can swap between being a close range DPS and a long range DPS. And then, even though her skill is a little clunky, you can swap cancel it. So there didn't really feel like there was any weaknesses after that initial couple of minutes of learning how to play her. But once I got to the later stages of Beyond the Rail, especially, that's where I noticed where Lacrimosa's true weakness is. And that is when she uses her skill, I was taking damage even though I was swap canceling out, and I was like, I should be protected from iframes, right? And what I noticed is she can't move during the skill, but you can swap cancel her, but she can take damage while she's attacked. And what I got from this is that the usual iframe protection you have from swapping out doesn't really apply to her skill. And the biggest thing with this, right, is in Beyond the Rails on the really, really later parts, like floor 10, 11, and 12, pretty much the enemies can do like a third of your HP on every attack. So when you have this like window of where it's you can't block, that's where the big problem with her was, because I was dodging all of these attacks, but I was still taking considerable damage, and I couldn't figure it out until I read her skill. And then I thought about maybe I shouldn't use the clunky boss skills. Even though they do the most damage, it might be more important to have a skill to swap out. And then I tried that a little bit, and it was just pretty obvious because she gets a attack increase based on which skill. So you're going to want to have a boss. That's why everyone's recommending Tomato Devil and Black Tome, because even though there's some boss skills that are less clunky, they're just not going to deal as much damage. And because this is time trial gameplay, you do want to make sure you're doing the skill that does the most, even though it doesn't feel like the best in terms of like clunkiness. And I like Black Tome for when there's a ton of enemies, and then when there's one or two, Tomato Devil just does more damage. So how can we solve that weakness? And the biggest thing I got was from using Adler. Now, I was skeptical of building Adler because I didn't see anyone online recommend him, and well, resources are limited, and I don't want to waste any right now. But I decided to take the plunge, and I leveled him up only to level 40, and just wanted to try him out. And after just like a little bit, I've already got him to level 50. I'm planning on getting him to 60 yet. I'm going to leave his weapon at 50 out of 60, but the amount of shielding was just so noticeable and just made Lacrimosa feel really, really comfy. It made her feel like just as great as chill of a time as like the Hattori non-elite team. So that was really, really big. And one thing I didn't really notice was that his ultimate is amazing against bosses because it applies 10 attacks instead of 5. So against bosses, he's just feeling really, really strong. And the temperance effect is really noticeable in the higher stages of Beyond the Rails, because if you can apply this minus 20% attack, it does make it so if you're getting knocked out in like 3 or 4 hits, it actually changes it to like 5 or 6 hits. So because of that, everything just feels really great with him, and he works perfectly with Lacrimosa because Lacrimosa swap cancels out. You have Adler apply the shield, do the damage with the ultimate, and then swap back to Lacrimosa, and it will apply Scorch if you have that duplicate of her. Now, the thing with this is I started using Adler pretty much all the time, and he was like the main character I was thinking of because Lacrimosa already does a ton of damage. You're already going to be getting an attack boost from Haniel, and the amount of shielding just felt much more comfortable than using like a sub DPS like Daffodil as that fourth member. So if you're going to be using main DPS Lacrimosa, I really recommend trying Adler because he is a game changer, and you might think that it's better to use like a weaker version of this skill so there's less time where there's that window where you can get punished, then I would rather do more damage and use Adler. So I highly recommend building Adler to use on the Lacrimosa team because that shield really makes it so her only weakness of having that punish window is pretty much non-existent and turns her, well, feeling like the best character in the game. But don't just take my word for it. The rest of this video will be a silent showcase, really proving why I think Adler is as great as he is. And before I end my yapping, be sure to like and subscribe for more Neverness to Everness content. See you guys next time.